Now, back to the studio where I have guests with me in the studio. Now, many would komo FK KNUST in Zambia course ewo honum. A school for our two different halls. A year Unity Hall and a year Katanga Hall, Moko Shiemu, na entokwa ekobae, ejatuto ekobemu, ebi eprae, amount for a cousin. So, yes, say no. Yes, investigations also KNUST for catches they have been able to identify some of these perpetrators or more acquire a year Jumedi or KNUST campus. A Korea an administration or more at the a year statement be at the Ebertobon Temenkai and Famo Manfon Afenum. It will set the basis for our conversation. Council decisions on disturbances arising out of University Hall Week celebrations. Council of the University at an emergency meeting held on Friday, 26th of August 2022, among others, discussed a report of a fact-finding committee constituted by the Executive Committee of the University following the recent disturbances arising from the Hall Week celebrations of the University Hall and decided as follows. 1. With effect from 2023-2024 academic year, the junior common room system of hall management by students is abolished. This means there would be no students' elections for hall executives. The existing governance structure comprising hall councils, hall masters, and senior tutors would continue to operate in the management of the affairs of the halls. In addition, hall fellows will be appointed and assigned to floors, blocks of the halls to exercise direct supervision over matters affecting students. In the meantime, Hall Week, SRC Week celebrations have been suspended indefinitely. Any student who participates in the organization of morale and/or procession shall be summarily dismissed. Any student or students who is or are caught to be harboring dismissed, rusticated, withdrawn students and alumni in his or her room in any of the halls or residence on campus shall be sanctioned appropriately. Students who indulge in any act which will warrant dismissal will have their names and pictures widely published in the national dailies and on the university's website. Students who are rusticated for various offenses will have their names and pictures published internally for the attention of the university community. Council vehemently condemned the recent disturbances and supported the ongoing investigations by the Ghana Police Service and the university authorities. It was the decision of the council that any persons found culpable should be dealt with according to the rules of the university, and those requiring further prosecution by the state should be handed over to the police. Council wishes to express its profound gratitude to the Ashanti Regional Minister, the Inspector General of Police, the Regional Police Commander, and the Central Command of the Ghana Armed Forces for the professional role they played in helping to restore calm and tranquility on the university campus. A.K. Boating, who is the registrar. There's been some response from students. One also edit one views about on this matter quickly. Nooks ediomo edie aba. Mame enkai eno emfama adofo na afeno yembra back to the studio na yendi enkomo on this matter. Now Nooks yesterday issued a press release. They said on the matter of KNUST Council's decision on hall clashes. Over the last few days, the leadership of the National Union of Ghana Students, together with the entire student front, has been taken aback by the extent to which the University Council of KNUST has gone in an attempt to cripple student leadership and involvement in the management of the university community. Preliminary, the union wants to establish the following in relation to the abolishment of JCR system and the various halls of residence of the university. That we appreciate fully the university's commitment to clamp down on violent clashes between halls on campus and will support every legitimate and disciplinary measure that promotes peace on campus. That notwithstanding, it is surprising to find that the first crack of the whip by management was on the existence of student leadership at the JCR level, a very integral part of our student leadership, and could be vital to in the management of these clashes. The decision by the University Council, to the extent, is an affront to the student representation and right, especially for an institution of higher learning. KNUST had already begun conversations and engagement with student leaders across the country, particularly those at the various hall levels, on a student-centered roadmap to ensure sustainable peace on various university campuses, and will continue to pursue it. And it goes on to raise some other issues. But let's quickly come back to the studio because my guests are with me, and let's have this conversation. And so I have Julius Kwame Anthony, former Secretary Nooks, with me in the studio, and then Bright Abuaji JC, Secretary for Press, Nooks, also in the studio with me. Gentlemen, good morning, and thanks so much for joining me.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
So let me pick your reaction to the chaos which happened on KNUST campus. Prior to that, there had been that of Legon as well. What do you make of these, riots that have been happening on campus?
I think that the situation is just an issue of few students who have lost the essence of having institutions that are able to mobilize for, united action or group action for purposes of achieving some positive results or societal changes, and have deteriorated those institutions to be ones that fuel hooliganism and vandalism on our campuses. I think that these behaviors should be condemned outrightly, and I've always maintained that persons who are found culpable should be held individually accountable. And I want to stress on that, individually accountable for the actions they take. They should be punished, they should be prosecuted, and dealt with according to the law. So these are things that we shouldn't tolerate in any way at all on our campuses. So I want to send a strong signal initially to students who are always found in these activities. The essence of us having, traditional halls and hall traditions is not for us to go about fighting each other. That is not what it is about. It is to ensure that...
It's interesting you say that these are a few individuals. These are deeply rooted rivalries.
Yes.
That are in these halls.
Orchestrated by a few individuals most of the time.
By few individuals. Not orchestrated by few individuals. If you follow the chronology of issues within these universities, these are issues that has to do with even alumnus and alumni of these institutions who support, who may even be holding, high positions in the country, and yet have these ingrained within them that there is this core rivalry between Hall A and Hall B. And so these are traditions that it's not a matter, as far as I'm concerned, of just individuals. It's something which is ingrained.
I don't think it's something that is ingrained, because anytime these clashes happen, how many people are found on the streets fighting each other? In a hall that has about 4,000 people, you may see about 100 or 200 people, or even less, on the street fighting each other. And then you realize that at the end of the day, all thousands of them are blamed for the actions of these people. These are a fraction of the total population. And I think that the words of the University of Ghana's Pro-Vice Chancellor of Academic and Student Affairs corroborates my claim that it's few people who go about and do these things. And then the blame comes to the total majority of the whole, which is something we shouldn't be condoned. That is why I stress on the fact that people should be held individually accountable, because these are people we can trace. There are few people, yes, there are alumni who join these things. And the KNUST issue revealed to us that there was someone who finished KNUST in 2002. That was about 20 years ago, joining these activities on campus. We understand that. But it is not the case that the total majority or the entire population of these halls are hooligans or go about destroying things. That's not the case. We shouldn't put the halls in entirety into a very bad light, or the entire student populace into a very bad light, because of the actions of very few people who have lost focus, the way I see it. Because I believe that all traditions exist for purposes of activism, both on national issues and on issues that borders on students. And I think that is why it should be maintained. That is why all student structures as well should be maintained. These few people who want to destroy these institutions should be rooted out, root and stem. punished, dealt with, rusticated, probably even jailed, so that the signal goes to anyone who wants to participate in these activities. It shouldn't be the case that we put the entire hall into this sort of lights and make it look like anyone who was in Conti or anyone who was in, what do you call it? Katanga is a hooligan, or even after school they want to support these things. That is not the case. I know very decent people, majority of them, very decent people, from Commonwealth Hall, from Mensa Sabah Hall, from Conti, from Katanga, very decent people, both alumnus and current students in these halls. So let's not paint all of them in that light and think that all the time is all of them who do these things. It's not all of them.
All right, right. What have students been saying on campus themselves about KNUST and Legon itself? What have they been saying? The reactions you've been picking?
Well, I think that generally students who are, of course, in their rightful opinion.
Anyway, by the way, sorry to do this, but I'm hoping that your tree is also good.
Sure.
It is. Yemfa makes it because I'm the mama yaka for too much. Yemfa makes it. Say tree niya yemfa makes it. Yeah.
Like I have said, it is generally not a good thing for somebody, in my opinion, and from the kind of perception, public perception we've read from the various campuses.
Okay.
I don't think that anybody who, in a sense, goes to school for some sort of training and to have a fruitful participation as a student on campus would have a sense that is in connection with anything violent. I think that at the National Union of Ghana Students, what we remain for is that we will seek for the welfare of our students. And in doing that, we have to condemn individual students who also want to endanger their own lives. I think generally we should have a point where we can change or give a new meaning to what we term as unionism. In our current state, I think people are misconstruing the idea of togetherness, fruitful participation to an extent where you cannot give any quality mind to that effect. And I think this is where we have to start looking at. If we truly want to get to the root cause of this whole issue, it is about time that we give new meaning to some of these things we do. We must reorient the minds of the people such that, look, we truly want to have a say in matters. We truly want to celebrate our unity. We truly want to celebrate our identity. But it does not mean that our only proven way can be violence. We should find a way of trying to restructure the system such that students would have the cause to celebrate. Of course, these are some of the things that give true meaning to being a member of a university, where we have the opportunity to celebrate weeks, where we have the opportunity to defend our halls and all of that. We should give a sense of a new direction to what we term as week celebration, what we term as hall unionism or activities of every hall in the various universities. And I think that this is some of the things that can give direction to some of these issues and would help solve this decade issue that have been on the neck of universities.
Now, points about, you know, the individualism you talk about and the prosecution or punishment of these individuals, as you are saying, not corporately, is the fact that, okay, so there's a procession on campus. I, Same, I'm let's say, a Katangi. I joined the procession. And so we are going. The intent of the procession is not riot. The intent of the procession is not violence. But along the way, in the course of the procession, something happens. And then violence erupts. And there are several innocent, procession-loving students of the hall who went on procession and are captured by cameras within campus, individual cameras as well. Do these people also suffer as well for this violence which would have happened if you're talking about individuals taking account for the actions which happened for those who went on the procession?
That is why I said earlier that we should disaggregate the issues. Mere association with Katanga Hall or with, what do you call it, Unity Hall should not make me, you know, get some form of punishment.
No, I'm talking about the procession.
Yes, I'm getting to that point. My association with the hall includes my participation in activities of the hall. And that includes processions and all those things. So if I go on procession and Kofi goes about and destroys things on campus, why should I be punished just because I was part of procession? That shouldn't be the case. The case should be that people should be held individually liable for whatever activities they undertake, which is illegal. When they are going on processions, they seek permission from school management that they are going on procession. So school management is aware that these number of students will be taking these routes to go on procession.
Are you sure they know the students?
Yes, not necessarily
No,
know
they wouldn't know the
individually
students. Yes.
every student, but the number of students from every hall.
I don't think they would know the number of students.
When you're asking for permission from the Office of the Dean of Students, you must include, one, who are leading the procession and
Yes,
all
that
those
you
things.
must.
You must include the number of students you estimate to participate and all that. True. So management is fully aware of these kind of things. So management must put measures in place. And I'm glad that in the KNUST case, we had a situation where CCTV cameras captured people. Management must put measures in place to ensure that we are able to identify individuals who go about doing these things. We are in a digital world. Why is it that up till now universities don't have CCTV cameras covering everywhere? In the University of Ghana, we don't have it. It should be at every point where these things happen. So we capture individuals who, as part of these processions, do these things and punish them. That is what we are advocating for. Not a situation where you put an entire ban on an entire hall. See, people went to these halls, Katanga, Commonwealth Hall, Mensa Saba, all of them, and their fondest memory of the place is charging, is participating in these processions, is the hallways and all these things. Why do you want to take it away from them? Some well-meaning alumni join these activities because that brings them fond memories of the times they were there. I want to be able to go to Commonwealth Hall and participate in these activities, and I'm not beaten by hooligans. I want to go to Mensa Saba Hall and participate in these activities, and hooligans don't touch me. But why is it that there's a situation where very bad people among good people, a large number of good people, are misbehaving, and we want to tag entire institutions as bad? That is what I don't like about the entire KNUST approach, especially to the issue of the clashes that are happening. That is what I don't like about it, because the picture they paint, especially with the statement they issued, is to make it look as if the entire student body, you know, are made up of hooligans. The leadership structures are unable to effectively work and ensure that these things don't happen and all. So you scrap all of it.
But there's a point that I think hasn't been touched or scratched in this whole conversation as to the role of the university in preventing these things. You speak about the provision of a list of the leadership that's going to participate in this, the estimated number of people who are going to be there. But history of these processions and hall weeks should teach us that there is a possibility of riots, you know, erupting as a result of these. And so, seeing how violent they can sometimes be, security measures must be put in place. Not so, right?
So I think that generally one thing must be established. The university and its management does not frown on the activities of the various halls. It is just that we have not found the rightful means of streamlining these activities such that it will suit proper procedural structures. That is one thing that should remain a concern. And that is the main reason why this decision that has been taken by the council should not be allowed to stand.
Now, it looks like you're all referencing the decision. We don't have time, so let's come to the decision.
Right.
They say that JCR meetings and elections and all of that suspended. You guys don't agree with it.
Sure. No, we don't.
Why don't you agree?
First of all, the position of the National Union of Ghana Students is very simple on this matter, and we have come forthright on this issue. The first thing is that the decision of the council is an affront to student leadership and leadership anywhere. We believe that this decision does not sit well with any democratic tenet in any community, especially in a community where the structures and cardinals for governance does not sit with one person. In this situation, we have the management, we have the students. And you see, sometimes it is very worrying when council, management of various institutions take decisions that do not sit well with the stakeholders who are the majority in this sense. And so that is the first position of the union. And we believe that the attempt of the KNUST Council to take such a decision is in any sense trying their possible best to cripple the SLC for them to lose their quantum of relevance they have garnered, for which reason they can stand toe-to-toe with the university management when decisions doesn't favor students. These are some of the things we believe that it does not resonate with democratic principles, and so the decision must not be allowed to stand. We have come very clear on this issue, that representation at the student front must not be something that any sort of management decision should tamper with that. And the decision out here by the management is something that is going to cripple the SLC. Of course, the statute and the decisions and everything that should bind every institution has or should anchor on that sort of statute that they have as a university. And so to recognize the SRC and not to recognize their constitution is another matter of concern, because in the SRC's constitution, they make room for the establishment of the SRC Parliamentary Council. It is in this council that we have a composition that forms the council. Imagine one day we sit here and we say the composition of the council, we want to just create loopholes in there and remove certain seats. We want to remove the post vice chancellor, perhaps if it is part of the council. We want to just do away with him. That is the decision the council have taken, because these are people who are direct representation from the horse on the SRC Parliamentary Council. We have the president of the horse, the general secretaries of the horse, who form part of the SRC Parliamentary Council. This is the council that streamlines the affairs of the SRC. They approve budget, they regulate the affairs of the SRC. So imagine we wake up one day and 14 seats out of the 30 or so membership of the Parliamentary Council has been trashed out because of one singular decision. No, I don't think we should allow this to happen. The decision is going to have, or is something that does not sit well with any form of principle, whether something that is to come or any sort of thing that resonates with things that have ever happened.
Let's carry our viewers and our listeners along, because JCRC is there for students at the whole level, having their leadership, their president and co, seeing to the day-to-day activities within the hall. What would the dissolution of this council mean? And a replacement with those that, per the statement, who are also going to champion the same cause in terms of daily activities within the hall. What would a dissolution of the JCR necessarily mean?
This is the implication. So at JCR hall level, students go about campaign on domestic issues, issues that make being in a hall, comfortable for you. So when they do that, students have the opportunity to engage them as to what they find uncomfortable. The student is able to tell them very petty issues like fans, like water, and all those issues. Trust me, I said this earlier on TV Africa, and I want to put this on record again. Junior common rooms do better in terms of managing welfare of students than the senior common rooms, which is made up of hall tutors and all those people. I am telling you that on authority. The decisions that senior common room members, made up of hall tutors, hall masters, and all that, eventually take, which in any way inures to the benefits of students in terms of their domestic well-being in school, are mostly based on recommendations of junior common room members. What happens is that students come to school and they know their colleagues, and they expect responsibilities that these senior common room members are supposed to be performing from their colleague students. And in this period, while these students perform these actions, they learn leadership. They're able to take responsibility for small groups of people who are under them. So if you take these away from them, what it does is, one, the students don't have any direct connect with the people you eventually put there. If we are in a hall and I go campaign to a hall of, about 1,600 people, and they know me very well, they are able to come with me with their issues. The period of the campaign ensures that I understand their concerns and know what I'm doing with them. But if a hall tutor, out of 1,600 people, hall tutor, how many of them can he know? How many people does the hall tutor interact with on a daily basis? The hall tutors don't know anybody. The people the hall tutors even know are usually the people that the students elect. So they get to work with them on a daily basis. So if the hall tutor just goes about, handpicks few people and asks them to work with the student, how will the students be able to feel that those are the people who duly represent them? And in terms of violent clashes and all those things, do you know what this does? It creates a situation where eventually, when students anger for not getting their very basic things satisfied, brews and grows to the point, clashes will happen again. And this time, it will be the students versus management, and it will be square on. Because you pick people who don't feel any sense of responsibility towards the people, but feel a sense of responsibility towards bootlicking you, the hall master. Because they must bootlick you, they must worship you to keep their positions. That is not the situation we should be creating in our country. We want to grow young people who are leaders. We want to grow young people who can take decisions on their own. We want to grow young people who can, in the future, take over from this generation that is in charge. And you feel that micromanaging them, handpicking them and all those things is the way to go. It is never the way to go. So management should take responsibility, one, for their own failures over the period to keep these situations. If students who are JCR executives are expected to stop violent clashes, and council members made up of alumni rep, pro-vice chancellors, vice chancellor, and all these people are unable to do it, who should be held responsible the most? If it's about cracking the whip on the constituency which is involved in the clash, then the KNUST council should have made a statement stating that they are removing the alumni rep from the council. Why? Because alumni participate in these clashes. So if JCRs are being removed because their members participate in these clashes, alumni rep should be removed immediately.
The sense
so
I get from the sense I get from the two of you is that of mistrust. You don't trust the administrators of the school to give you hall fellows who will be appointed to represent students at the hall level to see to the day-to-day needs of the students.
They would be unable to. Trust me. They wouldn't.
I think that I wouldn't put it outright that we do not trust them. But the thing is that sometimes.
But everything you're saying suggests, because
when you have history backing some of the
Anthony
things,
makes the point to suggest that they are just going to be stooges of the hall masters, and
that is why I'm saying that when you have history getting closer to the point you want to make, then it makes sense that you make statements that do suggest that you do not trust the management. In 2018, when they made an attempt that they were going to change the male hall to a mixed hall, there were uproar from the leaders of the various halls. So it seems to suggest that then this time round, let's appoint our own people there, such that when we want to take decisions, these are people we will sit and dine with. And so they would agree with us on everything, and they will become much more of a rubber stamp to issues. And so I think that that is where the point is. We have evidence of people who were sidelined, who were disgranted of various assets they are supposed to have as hall president just because they did not allow management or the council to take decisions of such. And to buttress the point Julius made, I think that if there is a certain group of people beyond the students who are worried about this decision, it should be the hall management, the hall tutors who are out there. This decision that have been taken by the council should be a great challenge or something that they should not agree to. Because I am saying this because, you see, there have been some petty issues that have been solved by this JCR leadership. And so to scrap them away, it means that you will open a floodgate for a lot of issues to escalate. Because the point of escalation for these issues and the point where the leadership of the JCR provide a sieve to solve some of these issues is something that we should recognize as something significant. There are several issues which happens in the various rooms of these students which have been solved at the student level. So to allow that to happen, these are lecturers who don't even have time enough to focus on their academic life, and saddled with their own family issues, they are going to deal with a hall that contains over 1,700 students. How do we allow this to happen? And so to the point where they want to elect, or I don't even want to use the word elect, to select or appoint their own members, I don't think it sits with anything democratic. 1,700 and over students want to have their hands in who lead them.
All right.
Because they are the people going to solve their issues. They are the people going to sit and have dialogue with them when there are matters that are of great concern to students.
Let's go to the phone lines and speak to your colleague who is also on the phone line. Ether Abu Ayim is a former SRC president, KNUST. He would obviously have interest in this matter. It's good to have you, Abu, on the show this morning.
Good morning, please.
You've been following the conversation, and your colleagues in the studio are making some legitimate points. What's your take in all the things that have been said with respect to the statement that came from your former institution's managers?
Okay, so thank you very much. I would agree with my colleagues on, and then like they were saying, these are issues of mistrust and then distrust. Because come to think of it, I don't seem to fathom why a student would come to school and then would pick up weapons to harm a fellow student when we all came to study. But then this whole issue, when they started, personally, I had wanted to understand the perspective why council and management took the decision that they took, so that we can find, perhaps we can engage them and then find a lasting solution. But then you look at where management is coming from, and you realize that it is a non-starter. I sent you a video 2 nights ago. The university relations officer on Joy News told us that there was a committee recommendation that had instructed management to what? Not to affiliate students to any of the traditional halls in KNUST. And what he said is true, because if you notice, from 2019 upwards, the current students in third years, none of them are affiliated to any of the traditional halls. But then, after the disturbance in 2018, there was only one committee that was set up, and it was set up by the chancellor of the university. It was set up by the chancellor of the university, and council, of which I was a member at that time, convened in September 2020 to adopt the committee report. So if the university relations officer is telling us on national TV that management implemented a report from the 2018 demonstration committee, what report is he talking about? Because I was a member and I've sent you the committee recommendations. None of them, you can find it nowhere in the recommendations that they should no longer affiliate students to any of the traditional halls. So you realize that management, and that is the problem that we have as student leaders. They take a decision, and then when you approach them, when you confront them, they tell you that that decision was taken in the previous administration. So if you have any problem, we had the students rep duly represented. So if you have any problem, you should go to your former student leader and then confront him on that. So that's why I sent you all the recommendation and the video and everything that you would need from the statement 2 days ago from the URO. And one thing that we want to make it clear is that we have had it, and then we are no longer going to take the manipulations, and management seems to bulldoze over students over minor issues. You will realize from the recommendation that in fact, it was council who were charged to what? If you read from the recommendation, they were rather charged to what? To crack the whip. And because they have failed, they want to push it down on the JCRs.
Interesting.
And dissolve it in that process.
Now, following your thoughts, you seem to have the mindset that this is a backdoor approach to, control students' life on campus by their university's administrators.
Absolutely. Not only a backdoor approach, but it is also not, if you look at I don't think that what they are doing is also legal, because I know for a fact that there was no recommendation for them not to affiliate students to a hall. As far as I am concerned, I was a member of the council, and I am aware of the committee report. It didn't state that.
Now, if you say that this is an illegality that's being perpetuated on the students on campus, KNUST now does law, right? And so
yes.
you would expect that there would be keen interest on the part of the law student body to ensure that these rights are not infringed upon. Do you see any interest in that regard?
Absolutely. We are looking at all options, and then if there is a need for us to take legal actions, we will do so. We will go to court, and the university would come and then prove which recommendation from whatever committee instructed management to implement that policy.
Okay.
We will do that.
Okay. Now, in summing up our conversation, just a quick point that I want to pick your thoughts on. And this point has to do with morale on campus, because morale was a thing of the day. Cadet goes for morale, the sportsmen go for morale, and several others go for morale. I don't know whether the context of morale on campus has changed since my time. But what is morale and its ban on campus? What would it mean for students, life?
The morale ban actually targets the members of the two traditional halls in question. That is the University Hall and then the Unity Hall. And in fact, I will tell you what, I've sat in meetings in which management had wanted, during the COVID times, they had wanted to use COVID as a cover up to to ban students from engaging in morale. And I told them that that wasn't going to be possible because there was no way that students would convene for SCC. There was no way that students would convene and lectures and all other activities. And then when it comes to morale, you will tell them that because of COVID, they cannot do that. So
Okay.
the intent is
Abu,
to. Yes.
I think that we are being unfair to our viewers and our listeners because you and I understand what morale is. But we assume that our viewers and our listeners understand what morale is. Abu, what is morale?
I would say that morale is a jama in our local
jama.
Yes, jama. When mostly our black stars when they are about to have a football match is a way to motivate themselves. I mean to keep their spirits high. I mean so that they will feel the game, and that is what mostly the boys from the two halls do. Friday nights after a stressful week, they convene and then they sing songs and then gospel, secular, and then when they get tired, they just go back to their various hostels and halls, and then that is it. So morale is not anything so strange that management should be worried about.
Does it in any way trigger some of these, processions or marches that we see on campus? Can a morale trigger people to leave the hall and say that, okay, throughout the whole hall,
Well, and that is what my colleagues on your platform said. If they want to go on procession, they make management aware. And then they are provided with security and the routes that they are supposed to take. That is it. If they are having a normal morale, they can convene. But the moment they want to go on procession, they would have to make management aware, and everything that they do would have to be approved. That is it.
Abu, I will thank you for joining me this morning on the show and sharing your thoughts with us. I'm studio because my bread. And yet, assembly any more traditions and more school honor. Is that not assembly say? Okay, you were a chief priest, Katanga. You were a chief priest. On the best ceremony, you be say. Commonwealth, most more dear. On the best ceremony, you be say. Commonwealth squad, you almost say. Saba almost vassals, and because of that, almost your mass there are these boundaries. Are these not the things over the period that and one a man for system, ama traditions either there is superiority, complex, and then it degenerating into these conflicts. And you're not
Of course, it is. Unfortunately, I'm not able to speak proper Tree.
Don't worry.
So the issue is that the university management is failing to realize that this is a community where there are different social behaviors, and parts of those social behaviors become social problems that they need to solve. And sometimes they feel that they could always use laws and all that to solve every problem. I stated yesterday that laws sometimes only come as, consequences of several wrongs that have happened in the past. And the university needs to recognize that these hall traditions exist. Whether you deny their existence because they are not part of the statutes or not, they exist because it's a community and these things exist in it. You don't say that because you are not legal, we won't recognize you or something of the sort. The university must come to that recognition that they must deal with it. So what do we do with our hall traditions? We have a situation where in most of the halls, in my experience, the chiefs are almost in hiding. They are not known publicly like the way you know an SRC president or know a JCR president and all that. But they wield powers in some instances, even more than a JCR president. I was in Commonwealth Hall, and my experience of what the chief vandal could do and what the JCR president could do, I can tell you on any day that when it comes to exercising de facto power, the chief vandal is more powerful than the JCR president. He could summon the entire JCR membership at his whims. He could ask that they are going on processions at his whims. The JCR president cannot do that without his leave. That's the kind of power management refuses to recognize exists. So if you refuse to recognize the recognition of this sort of power, whether de facto or de jure, it exists. So what do we need to do going forward? Management must come to the point where they realize that, see, we have to sit, dialogue, find a lasting resolution, give a new meaning and purpose to these traditions. Because if there's no deliberate effort to give a new meaning and purpose to the traditions will do whatever they need to do to have that recognition. It includes going on processions and feeling that we must dominate this hall and subjugate this hall to make them feel like they are our vassals or they are underneath us. So what meaning should we give to the existence of a chief in the hall? It's a thing that management must now recognize and want to give a new meaning to these institutions. So long as they refuse to do that, these people would continue to fight for a certain power, which they actually have unrecognized, but they would want to exercise it. So let's go on and have a conversation as a community. The university management should not feel like an university is like a SHS where there are house masters and all those things to give instructions and give directions and all those things.
Let me give the final bite to Bright. 2 minutes.
I think that from the point of traditions and administrative structures, if the management or the council of KNUST should believe that what they have done is right, then I think that they have shot or they have fired wrongly. Because these traditional leaders of the various halls and the JCR system, even though they have some kind of collaboration, but administrative-wise, if you want to solve the root cause of all of these clashes, when you scrap off the JCR, you have just crippled the SRC. But the significant part which you have to address, you've left them to be there. These are not, to say, administrative structurally recognized figures in the various halls, but they take key decisions. And so to shoot the JCR, which is a structure or an embodiment as part of the SRC, and leave the traditional rulers of these halls, it doesn't speak well with how you truly want to deal with the matter. And so I think that, like Julius said, we should give a new direction, a sense of direction. We must not be a group of people who are just always going to guide them. We must be participatory in our quest to solve problems. It is possible that even these hall management do not even attempt to even participate in the activities of these halls. And so at any point when there are issues, you don't even have a glimpse of reality. But it is these same leaders who actually prick the minds of the various halls and management to some of these issues. Can we have a sense where traditional celebrations have a link with academic purpose? Can we have a sense where all of these activities are well collaborated in a manner that the competition, the sense of participatory is very mutual and connect with good sense and a community of a group of people? Can we have that mindset? It's something that we should put under consideration, where the kind of activities we script for various weeks are something that is going to generate some sort of academic sense. Imagine we are to fight over who becomes the valedictorian for the university at the end of the day, and it is between these halls. What will happen? These students will go to the lecture halls. These students will find something to do with academics. They will find academic as one thing that they should challenge themselves with, and not to always have this kind of clashes.
All right, so whilst we are at it, talking students' politics and students' life, let me say a very good morning to you, Ebenezer Techi of Accra Technical University. You are vying for the SRC president of the Accra Technical University, and Emmanuel Entwa, you're also vying for the vice president of the SRC. I want to say good morning to you guys. I'm hoping that at the end of the day, you'd be the pair that your school determines would lead them in the next phase. But I would like to thank you for joining me this morning in the studio, Bright and then Julius, for this wonderful conversation. I'm hoping that you guys will place Ghana first. Ghana first.
My last submission.
There is no last submission.
There's
no last submission.
I had wanted to pass this across.
Okay.
I think that in a latter part or our conclusion, we want to play with the council. It is not wrong when you risk a wrong decision. And so at this point, this risk the decision, find it necessary and important to involve the student leadership and possibly NUST at a certain extent. I understand the composition of council, but there can be a part where decision making can involve NUST and the leadership such that we can have proper consultation on this matter. I don't want to believe that the decision the council took is just to cripple the SRC. I don't want to ever believe that. I want to believe that it was in their quest and good intention to solve this yearly canker. And so they must risk the decision and find it necessary to involve all the leadership to ensure that we bring sanity to this issue.